I don't know how many people have memories of being 4, but I have quite a lot. It was summer, so it was really hot. I was wearing a yellow dress the day I was diagnosed. It was my favourite dress. And I'd been in and out of hospital for tests because I'd developed a lot of bruises on my body that no one could explain. And because it was summer, I was out in, dresses or shorts. So it was very obvious to people. And then at the weekend, my parents received a call saying, actually, we need her to come into hospital. And by the Monday, I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. So I was in hospital for 6 months almost, living in hospital, having treatment, having chemotherapy, several operations. And there were periods of time where I had to be in isolation. So obviously chemotherapy can make you neutropenic. So your immune system's completely wiped out. You've got no blood cells to help fight infection. So you're really vulnerable to anything. This meant that I was often sort of in my own room, completely on my own with my mum, and no one could really come in and out. And it was only nurses and doctors that could come in. And that was hard. That could go on for a long time. And when you're 4 years old and don't understand why you can't leave the room, it's not easy. We had a party on the ward when I finished, like, with ward-based care. So I'd been there for quite a long time. So I knew the nurses and the other patients quite well. So we had a cake and some snacks, and then I left. So actually, when I was diagnosed, my family reached out to Children with Cancer UK and asked for support, and they were amazing, and they were funding a lot of the research that was going on into caring for children with AML at the time. So we've got a lot to thank for Children with Cancer UK. I've always wanted to be a nurse, and I'd always kind of thought that I'd become an oncology nurse. A lot of children, when I tell them that I had cancer when I was younger, they'll say, whoa, why did you want to go back into a hospital? And that's perfectly understandable. I was absolutely terrified. It would fill me with absolute dread, the thought, even the smell of a hospital. But as I grew older, I realised the experience had kind of shaped me in a bigger way, and I wanted to do something with that. Yeah, so I became a nurse. During the pandemic, obviously, children with cancer are a much higher risk than a normal person might be for coronavirus. So obviously it's quite risky for them to leave the house, but it's essential that they get their treatment. So families still come in, whichever way they choose, as safely as possible, really, and then they'll come in for their treatment. And all our children are in isolation cubicles anyway, because obviously it's important that they're safe, regardless of coronavirus. Families can't have as many visitors coming to see them. We have obviously all staff wearing masks, so it can be a little bit more frightening for a child because they can't see our faces. We've always got to wear a mask to keep us and them safe. The hospital's a lot more empty at the moment because we don't have so many patients coming in and out. There's not so much of a sort of a flow of people or visitors, so it's quiet. I think when you're being treated for cancer, and I think the whole family, you're taken on this journey that you didn't ask to go on, and it can feel like it's never going to end. And whether there's the corona pandemic going on or not, it can feel impossible and absolutely terrifying. And then you add in this virus, and everyone else is terrified as well, and that kind of just makes it all seem really impossible. So I think what's important is for families and children to remember, and I say this from someone who's been through it and he's experienced it, and come from a family who's been through and experienced it, that you can get there. And it might seem impossible, but I got there. And even though I was absolutely terrified of hospitals for months and years afterwards, here I am in the uniform. So things never end up like you think they will. And it can all feel really dark and really scary right now. But however many years down the line, it's really possible for things to be entirely different and a lot more sunny. So keep going.